Hello and welcome back to the Halloween edition of the Morningscape podcast. I am your host, SpongeBob SquarePants, here with Patrick Starr
No,
to go
I'm
over the
Squidward.
Thursday slate. You are more of a Squidward. I might not keep this on because it just really wants this costume to be the green screen. Maybe if I back the green screen up a little bit. No, it's better. We'll go for it for a while. It seems like every time I move, part of the costume is like, yep, now it's all the green screen. Yeah, I don't know why it's very yellow, but if you're not watching this live, I have my SpongeBob costume on, and that is Squidward because he just is. If you are watching this live, I hope you got a quick chuckle. And yeah, we have a 7-game slate. If you are reading the YouTube, I'm calling us the Min Cash Morningscape podcast now because it feels like we either both min cash or we take turns min cashing. I feel like every single slate, one of us is min cashed. It's just every night. It's just like you think you have a good lineup and you don't, or
I don't know about
you don't
that.
have a good lineup. You somehow fall into it. Matt is on the streak of I've never seen anyone have as many goals scored on his goalies in the first period in consecutive slates. It just immediate death for Matt. Like 3 slates in a row because he picked the goalie that decided to give up a 5 spot or a 3 spot or a whatever in the first period.
I legitimately don't even know what's happening. Oh, okay, yeah, 3-2. See, I literally didn't even complain about it, and the record should show that yes, it was really stupid and bad, but like I did not complain because when you take cheap goalies, sometimes they give up goals, and it's never dead because nonsense can happen.
I'm worried but I'm worried that it might be the AHL roster in Colorado. That's the problem because it's 3-0.
I would suspect that yes, I mean, I have no idea what ownership looks like. I don't know what the slate's folding out to be. I know Columbus was uber chalk, but also Elvis was uber chalk. So like that's going to be painful. But yeah, I went through the fun process of switching routers because they sent me a new router. So that was fun. And that took up most of my post lock evening. But after about 35-40 minutes, it was finally all up and running. So yeah, that's I consider that a success. But yes, that is why we are a little bit later than usual, and why I'm a little bit more frenetic than usual, just because I did all the slate prep stuff just now, and I'm still finishing it as we intro this here podcast. So yeah, I guess you kind of summarized our weeks. I feel like I would be much happier if one of us was min cashing every night because I do not get the sense that is the case. But I prefer your version of events where, it's not just a downward spiral, but like actually getting some money back each night.
Yeah, last night was it was just one of those nights where I played the right goalie in Dostal. I had Minnesota 4-man stack. They have 50 shots on goal, whatever it was, and they just didn't get there. And like there were too many. Montour was a necessity to win real money, and I was all over Seattle. I just kept circling it.
Did you see the winner in the winner in the 333 did not play Montour? Just ran into the nuts other than Montour, who was like decently owned, but he had a Ottawa power play with Wallman. I think one off was what did it for him because Wallman's just been goading. Didn't help me at all.
Incredibly successful, I feel like, at picking teams that dominate the game, or at least dominate the expected goals, and sometimes even the goals, but just never picking the right unit. Like I've had slates where, and tonight I stacked Tampa, so we'll see how it goes. I mean, they're up 3-0. I got a couple goals, but it just feels like every night it's like, oh, it's that line that's doing it, or it's Minnesota, like they would have absolutely got there if the goals all came through the right guys because they all hit the shots bonuses and just Eriksson held off the score sheet, Boldy's held off the score sheet. You're sitting there just kind of shaking your head like, well, Kaprizov got there, and then no one else came entirely along for the ride. And it's, I don't know. Again, like eventually it'll turn our way, and hopefully it's on Thursday night. And I know others in the Discord have been winning. And I think we were giving out a lot of good takes. We're like, our process has been really good. It's just like getting that
what's funny?
Perfect run out.
I was just thinking about last slate, and I literally think the first odd night of the year where someone hasn't posted in the Discord, like, oh, like whatever, the best night, or whatever, like even a deep cash or whatever. So, maybe last slate was our worst slate of the year, which, is a good way to feel about things, because I felt pretty good about the Tuesday slate. But, obviously I played Montembeau and stacked Kings. So yeah, I made no money. But I certainly didn't feel like it was a total disaster from like a procedural standpoint. But yeah, I woke up, didn't see anybody post any sort of sweat, any sort of deep cash. Maybe people are just bored and they're making so much money they're not sharing it anymore. But it does feel like for the first few weeks, every Wednesday and Friday morning we've woken up to something to retweet, or just click the little flame emoji on. But yeah, I mean, we're not here to try and sell anything, so it doesn't really matter how you guys are doing, but it's nice to see that you all are seemingly doing well to start the year, and if not, we're having a good time. That's the camp I fall into.
Yep, I took Wednesday off from Underdog. Just decided that I was going to try to focus elsewhere instead of trying to jam 20 drafts in 30 minutes plus betting plus this plus that. And I felt like I had this really, really good cohesive process and putting things together, and just like, I don't know. I will see if anything gets there. The betting card is going to fall apart because the Islanders are legitimately could tap in a backdoor wide open net, or produce any sort of offense, and the referees put their whistles completely away. But let's just move on. Shorter slate, a little bit of recap. Not really. I don't think a metric ton to glean. I just think that it's like, I think I'm just going to stick to all of my process and just try to, maybe if I don't have enough time, cut something out of the equation rather than like try to get every little that last thing in, because I feel like I'm just losing out on, maybe getting something perfect, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I've also just transitioning into the Thursday slate. It does feel like pricing is kind of soft across the board. There's not a ton that you really want to spend up for, and there's some reasonable, actual superstars priced in like the 6 to 7K range, versus instead of the 8 to 9Ks, like obviously of Matthews, but with no McDavid, Pasternak's in the worst possible matchup. Forsberg's Forsberg, so he's in play, but everyone else is pretty inexpensive. So I don't really know what to make of that. I've been trying to play more good defensemen as the pricing ceiling has elevated. I think, was it tonight? McKinnon was 10K. Like the deep pricing, I just don't think is really followed along with that. So playing like the defensemen who are really, really good in like the 5K-ish range, I think makes a lot of sense, at least for me, how I like to play. And that leaves you, looking at some mid-tier stacks. And I do feel like this slate kind of sets up nicely for my eye here. So I don't, is there anything else you want to do before we transition right into the game by game?
Now let's get into it.
All right.
Seattle and Toronto's up first.
We've got the DGen Stoner keeping us up to date with all the goals. So thank you.
I saw it.
Yep.
Good night to my parlays, because the Islanders legitimately didn't score. They did not score a goal.
Yep.
Against Columbus. Okay. So yeah, this game is
could have seen it coming.
Not me, I suppose. It's a 6.5 over under, plus 100 on that over, minus 205 for the home Toronto Maple Leafs. This Maple Leafs team feels really good. This team in Seattle, I don't really know what they feel like. I would say they probably feel like the most average team in the league. They don't produce a metric ton on offense. They don't give up a crazy amount defensively. They have more talent than they did last year. It just feels like, and it's kind of, I'm not going to say we're perfect, but I do think we were pretty directionally accurate about this team, where it's like, they actually have guys now that make this team more interesting, and it might not be the exact way you think it's going to be, but like a guy like Montour can help lift a lot of boats. Well, last night he was a yacht. Like, I don't know what else to say. He just kind of carried, so much of that offense. And like, it's really interesting how these power plays are developing. It's really interesting how it kind of feels like there's meat on the bone here against a Toronto team that's, good. Really in all aspects of the game. Like, I do think this game does have potential to have good Corsi numbers, though. So it's like they're punts on Seattle to focus on, I guess is probably the way to put this.
Yeah, I mean, I would not be surprised if people chase the Chandler Stevenson game from Montreal. I mean, he doesn't even crack the top 200. I think there's like 280 players on this slate. As far not players on the slate, but players who have played games for the teams on this slate. And of that list, he doesn't even crack the top 200. So like he's been pretty terrible. But obviously, you get points for assists, and secondary assists are not counted in my expected fantasy point output. So that's why he doesn't make it here. That's an obvious place to start just because he's coming off of a 24 pointer, 4 assists, 1 shot on goal. Like you're just going to need hyper efficiency for Stevenson to get there. But he correlates with Tolvanen, who's really cheap and should project pretty well based on his historical rates. And then he has the power play job alongside Montour, who got a deserved price hike, but has been one of the better defenders in the league, shooting an absolute boatload. And then the Schwartz right Bjorkstrand line, I just don't think plays enough minutes to really be projectable. But yes, they are presumably the top power play. Last time we saw Seattle before that game, it was Montour with the McCann, Beniers, Eberle. So like, it's not a perfect science on like who Montour actually best correlates with. But I would just be super careful. Toronto's a really good team. I just don't. I don't want to pick on them too much, and I especially don't want to pick on them after Seattle put up 8 in Montreal. Like it just doesn't feel like a good circumstance here. I did set up my sheet for this. Obviously, it's way too tough to actually do anything with. But just looking at the team level matchups over the last 5 games, Seattle has one of the worst matchups on the slate, which is not a surprise because Toronto's good defensively. Seattle's not impressive offensively. And even as we saw last night, there's no guarantee where the offense comes from on Seattle. I mean, they scored 8 goals, and yes, Stevenson got there. Montour scored a hat trick, but like, every line pitched in. Random dudes just don't score. Like it's not a easy team to stack whatsoever. So I'm just not interested. Any other thoughts?
No, I think that's pretty fair. I think there'll be a team that a lot of people are going to try to take a piece of, and Riker Evans. As you go back to that well again, it's kind of like, when is that well going to run dry? When is he going to put up that 0 again? And it could be every game, really. Like he has hit the blocks bonus 3 of the last 4. He's 3,500. He's seeing power play run with what we call Unit 2, but that Unit 2 has McCann on it, and the other one has freaking Shane Wright, who they don't want to play, and Chandler Stevenson, who doesn't shoot. So it's like, I could see a narrative where you one-off here. I don't really know which is the best one-off, but it's not a part of your process right now to play that cheap defender. So we can look at Toronto, which I do think is like way more competitively priced as far as too cheap is probably the way to put it.
I screwed that
yeah,
up. Who is well, doesn't really matter who's the non-Ekman Larson guy.
I'll find it,
but I need to update. This is power play 1. So yeah, Toronto kind of went wonky on us, but they are playing Knives, Matthews, Marner as a true power play 1.
McCabe, Tanev, Ekman Larson, Riley, Benoit, Simmons. Yeah.
Jake McCabe, the extendo man.
Pacioretty was top power play. Nylander was not, and Nylander and Tavares and Pacioretty broke the slate anyways. Didn't really matter. So
and sort of the main appeal here is that line 1 is perfectly power play correlated. It has Austin Matthews, and it is $20,000, $20,100 to be exact. And then line 2 with Max Pacioretty, who's super cheap and on the top power play, been productive. And then obviously Tavares and Nylander, who are just underpriced at sub 7K, even if without the power play 1 job. That full line stack is 16.7K. So very clear targets here. I don't even think you need to worry about going to McMahon, Domi, who make for a cheap 2-man. With Morgan Riley being so cheap, it feels like line 1 plus Riley will be your most popular 4-man stack of the night. But yeah, that's pretty obvious. I can't say I hate it, though. Of course, Seattle is not terrible defensively, at least we think. So yeah, how are you feeling? Do you need to feel out some of the other spots on the slate before you make your sort of top stack decree on Toronto here?
Toronto 1 is probably my top stack of the night. I don't even think it's going to be much of a question. There's a couple others in consideration, but it's really, really, really hard to overlook. I wonder if it'll be all that chalky. I'm going to guess, Matthews will be one of the more popular plays on the slate, but I think I just go all the way with all three. Like, consider Morgan Riley in the mix. He's come down in price just because he wasn't getting that power play run, but he's been shooting. He's been actually scoring, like actually putting the puck in the net, but which isn't maybe going to continue. But at 4,800, I think he fits in nicely. And it's like if Matthews scores the 50 bomb or whatever, they could all come along for the ride. So I'm pretty interested in going with all four.
Yeah, makes perfect sense to me. I would even be fine replacing Mitch Marner with Max Pacioretty, to be honest. 67 Marner is fine. Like, it's not a bad price, but it's also not 5,800 Marner, like I think we saw maybe last week or so. And Max Pacioretty is a genuine, he can get there even if he doesn't get a point type guy. If he has 7 shots on goal, that's more than enough for 3,500. So like, it's okay to sort of do the power play stack and maybe just hope that your secondary stack just improves, or your defenseman or something as a result. Certainly do not think Mitch Marner is crucial with Nyes and Matthews, both being good point per dollar values, and then Max Pacioretty being a standout point per dollar value along with Morgan Riley. So just an idea there. Otherwise, they traded Liljegren today. I don't know if you had any thoughts on that. Seemed kind of like he kind of just seemed like he was the next Rasmus Sandin, where he's going to go somewhere and be pretty good, but better than he was in Toronto.
Was that a question?
Yeah, like your thoughts on the Liljegren trade, if you have any.
Oh, I see what you mean. No real thoughts. He goes to San Jose. Cool. He is now a guy to watch. But I don't really have anything else. Just like he's probably not really all that good.
So Jen Stoner is telling us he's betting and laddering Tanev over 2.5 to 4.5 block shots. On DK, I've only ever seen the straight over-unders. I've not seen the alt lines. So
yeah, me either.
I'm not sure where you're getting that, but I certainly don't mind it. You can see here that he's been just as productive as an OEL, or close to Morgan Riley even, in expected fantasy points. And guess what? That's not through shots or assists or expected goals. So he's doing that almost entirely through blocks, and thus not a terrible little thought.
I think one game where he didn't hit the box bonus. It's like I don't know. I mean, his ceiling is not great, of course, but he, you could probably do worse things in the world. That's what he does. He blocks shots and gets
3,600. I don't mind it. On DK,
you could do dumber things.
All right.
St. Louis, Philly.
Yep.
It is a 6 over under. Philly is minus 135 at home. This game kind of just feels like one that I wouldn't blame you for crossing out. The Flyers get a lead and sit on it against Boston like I've never seen. Boston had a lot of chances. Harrison, big for the best ball bag game. For me, stood on his head. It does kind of feel like a situation in Philly where like they're really trying to ensure that they don't overwork Harrison, because that's what happened last year. And he already started with, pretty good performance, bad performance. Good. It's like, I think they can see like this guy can't handle that many runs in a row, and they just have no one else in net. So it's something to keep an eye on there for sure, because I believe truly do have a backup goaltending that is very sub NHL level, to a point where it is targetable. Like, I know it, I'm the king of, we really are the kings of saying goaltending doesn't matter. And it's like, there's a level of goaltending that just has never seen this NHL quality that could be a net. So like, I might cross out the game. I might look at St. Louis if it is one of the two Russians in net for the Flyers, and Fedotov or Kolosov. They're just not NHL ready guys. So when that happens, I think you could try to take advantage of it, especially because I don't think, again, it's not a very big total. They're the underdogs on the slate, and there's, I think a three-headed monster with a defenseman. Really, honestly, I wouldn't even hate the idea of full power play stacking and just saying like they score 6 goals because the goaltending is abysmal. Like, not the way I normally play, but this might be a rare example.
Yeah, I mean, this game looks pretty gross on the surface, and it's mostly because both these offenses have been pretty anemic at 5-on-5. The most concerning thing in St. Louis is that their power play is just stalled out. Like the second unit actually played the most time last game. They got absolutely waxed by Ottawa, so that's part of it. But second unit has looked productive. They switch up lines in practice, so we got Texier, Bushnevich, Neighbors, and then Saad, Holloway, Kyrou. You'll notice then that Braden Shen has moved down to play with Radek Faksa and Zach Bolduc. So it's pretty gross there too. I think the Saad, Holloway, Kyrou line is fine. The problem is that the Holloway at center experiment did not make it over to DraftKings. Or actually, yes, it did. Okay, it did make it. Okay, perfect. So we do have a center wing stack, which is actually better than I was expecting. So scratch that from the record. It's at least cheap. It's Jordan Kyrou with a good player in Dylan Holloway, who I personally like, and then Brandon Saad, who, as we mentioned last show before they absolutely tanked, is I think just a perfectly fine player. So at 3,100, with a real role with PK, power play, so on, that's 13K for a line that I don't think sucks. Just a good way to play Kyrou with cheap guys around him. So I think that's where I would go. Anything stand out to you here?
I mean, Broberg continues to be 3K and has truly emerged as their most productive defenseman and most, he got in a game where they were trailing all game, he saw, 24 minutes, almost 25 minutes. And it's I think you could definitely find worse plays. It kind of feels like the steam has worn off from his electric start. Maybe people don't actually go down and click on it just because he's had a few bad games in a row. But if you're stacking this team, you don't have to take Falk. He's fine. He has double bonus upside in him. We know he does. Haven't really seen the shot production this year at all though. So it just kind of feels what's the point? Why am I paying 4,600 when this Broberg guy could just as easy take over the top power play, which has been a nightmare. So yeah, I have no issue with, again, to me, it is goalie dependent, which it never is for me, but I might as well just once in a while be a slappy and, just click a button, smash my head against the keyboard, hee-haw 4 to 5 times at least, and then click in St. Louis against a goaltending matchup, like I said, which is a bit of an anomaly.
I like Zach Bolduc enough to maybe take a flyer on him if you just have to play someone at the minimum. Shen Faksa sounds like a line that the St. Louis Blues would play for 18 minutes. And Bolduc is a decent prospect. He's been pretty solid so far. Nothing special, but certainly a player with pedigree, and that's far more than we get in most circumstances at 2,500 with a genuine, power play 5-on-5 type role. So that's a fine way to go, though. I don't think I'm playing Braden Shen in the revenge spot. Braden Shen, revenge, but yeah.
I mean, Bolduc has goal scoring pedigree to his name. It makes sense. Philly on the other side of things, it's a good matchup. I mean, you could go to it. I don't think it's going to be all that popular. St. Louis does feel a bit broken, and it just kind of feels like what everyone kind of assumed could be the problem here is starting to rear its head, where it's this defense, of course, bad. Broberg looked like he may have taken a big enough step to keep them from truly bottoming out, but with the injury to Robert Thomas, it just kind of feels like too many holes are creeping in. I don't like this game though, and I just don't really like to assume Philly is going to win by themselves. I don't know. This Philly team is weird. It's one game, it seems like they're playing this fun, up-tempo, offensive, back and forth against Minnesota. And then the next game against Boston, it was as if they were at all costs, do not let a scoring chance happen. And that means never try to create a chance yourself. They finished with 2.3 expected goals in that game. Just not much to really glean from the team in Philly.
Yeah. it just doesn't feel like a spot where Philly's going to be pushed. Like that's sort
Yeah.
of where I want to play the Flyers when they're trailing, because
Yep.
otherwise you're super at risk of the Lawton and Cates experiments just sort of churning out, grinding, dump and chase type hockey, and
And
Mitchkov gets
they
14
love
minutes. Or
it's a
yeah,
dream come true for them. Like they're up in a
yeah,
game and they
no,
do that, and they are the happiest team in the world to do it, which is like exactly the like Owen Tippett saw 13 minutes against Boston. Like very stupid stuff.
yeah. Like Tyson Forster's just not been. He's not even been producing this year, like at all, which is discouraging. So,
He
like,
scored.
yeah, he did score a goal. That's cool. But I want players who can get more than 10 as their ceiling, and he's not really been showing that this year, which
I'll let
is
him know you said
upsetting.
that.
Okay, well, yes, please write him. Um, yeah, I don't think I'm playing Mitchkov Konechny. I suspect they'll get a little bit of ownership too, with like a 2.8, 2.9 team total. So just not really all that interested, because there's
Yep.
plenty of spots on the slate that I do have interest in. So let's just get over to Anaheim and Pittsburgh. What do you have on this game?
A certain and undeniable pain yet again. Anaheim is just the worst coach team in the NHL. I don't even think it. I mean, like Patrick Waugh is going to try to give them a run for their Cronin this run for his money, but like I just do not see a world where Cutter Gauthier could come off that top power play. And of course they scored twice, so that see him never again. He is 11 minutes, all the shots in the world. I don't really know what you play on this team and feel good. Vetrano, McTavish are correlated. Leo Carlson and Terry are correlated. Power play and 5-on-5. I just think I'm out on this team. Like Zellweger is a good play ish. 21 minutes, power play 1. Assume they're not leading too often. He's fine. I just don't know what you click on this Ducks team and think like I could win a slate, even against Pittsburgh.
Yeah, that's the main problem. Just like Olin Zellweger's cool. I dig that, but the Gauthier luck factor has really bitten him. Like obviously, if he was scoring on his glorious chances over the first 9 games of the year, he would be installed in that top unit because he was producing on the top unit, just not getting the results. But now that role's gone, I just don't think there's any reason to chase the dragon. I do think he's fine as like a shot prop guy or whatever, like especially if his point prop starts to move downward and whatnot. But in DFS, I don't think his price is going to fall too much. And yeah, the one thing I'll say about the team is that they are playing with tempo. Pittsburgh's also playing with a lot of tempo. Like you look at their pace stats, and they're among the better teams in the league. So this game
Ducks are giving up a ton. I mean, the Ducks are dead last in Corsi against per 60 at 5-on-5.
That's a big part of it.
Fifth best at Corsi 4 at 5-on-5. The problem with Pittsburgh is they're also 9th worst at Corsi against at per 60 at 5-on-5. So it's like everything about this game screams there's potential. It kind of just to me feels very concentrated on the Pittsburgh side.
I mean, McTavish and Vetrano. I mean, come on, they're 9.2K. If they're on the, they're going to be on the top power play unit. Like, I mean, Frank Vetrano's. The problem was that we just didn't have a role for him on the power play because Cutter's definitely a better goal scorer than him in my opinion. But because Vetrano has he's been semi-productive and he's gotten that role. I mean, yeah, like I think you just kind of need to throw your best ball bags out the window and just say like, look, Frank Vetrano at 5K against Pittsburgh on the top line with McTavish, like that was a 13K stack last year and it produced a lot. And now it's 9.2. I don't really see a real reason to dislike it. So yeah, I will say that's one stack I'm pretty interested in. You can leave off Strome. Who cares? He's too expensive. He is. And you could maybe add on Troy Terry, but really it's just like Olin Zellweger. If you need a punt D-man, he's pretty good and seems like he's actually locked in a top power play job finally. So, but yeah, Cronin is Cronin. Definitely don't trust him, but I at least can say that is in my range of interest here. On the Pittsburgh front, what do you like?
I mean, it's Malkin's a winger now on DraftKings, so pretty easy to just say Crosby, Malkin, Raquel. Raquel scored twice. It was a really good call by you. Made a ton of sense. I feel
Don't
like that
worry,
was kind of
his price went up $100, so
just
he won't be at
unaffordable now.
98% owned.
Yeah, they didn't quite get that right. Sorry, I'm just the lines in for LA are interesting to say the least. I'm not sure if you saw, but yeah, I don't know if you go anywhere else. Carlson's been probably the guy that like I just keep going to the well for, and it's been pretty dry. Like I feel like every underdog slate that I see Eric Carlson going undrafted, I'm just like, well, this is the one certainly
Yeah.
where he gets the 20 or
Yeah,
something.
he's a little too expensive on DK, I think, to really be like a smash play. Yeah, these bottom three lines were all entirely a mess. Like I would think your second line should be Lars Eller with someone. And they did play it that way. It's just you don't know who his wings are going to be, so I just kind of left it because I don't really care. I don't think you're playing anyone depth wise, but yeah, clearly the interest is on the top line, and then maybe you can mix in a D-man, but I don't think I'll be doing that. Eric Carlson's price has gone up without his results really.
Yeah, I agree. Doesn't make a lot of sense, and I think you could just play the 3-man and move on, and you could look at Letang or Carlson, and like Letang's been fine, and Carlson's been just not really awarding of the price. I can't imagine punting with Pittsburgh. It just feels like you just don't know what you're.
Is right there. Like just play.
It's right
Raquel.
there.
Like, find
Yeah,
the money.
it's kind of it's one of those things where it's like if Raquel just got there without Crosby and Malkin, he could do it again. And I don't know why you're dumpster diving for, yes, he pulled RV and his he had 5 minutes last game. Or you play the penalty kill unit, in a Chari, O'Connor, Glass. It's like, and they weren't even just everything below that first line is such a clusterfuck. Just move on.
Well, let's do that to Montreal at Washington.
We have a 6 over under, pretty heavy, minus 122 on the over, and Washington is a minus 205, finally getting the respect they rightfully deserve. We'll start over in Montreal, which is always one of the quicker teams to go over. A couple notes here for sure, but Caulfield, Suzuki, Doc, that is what we're expecting at this point. Slavkovsky was in last game. They did, I believe, go back to it during the game at one point or two. Yeah, for most of the game, actually. So probably actually not what Matt's showing, and Slavkovsky will be with Suzuki and Caulfield. That's, I guess, actually to be expected.
We didn't get a practice to know that for sure.
I mean, they got completely and totally boat raced. It was 8-2 against Seattle. We already talked about Montour's hat trick, and there's really like not positive, but like probably going to go to that. And then the power play was Newhook. I think it was Newhook before, but just I guess in case anyone was wondering, it was not Slavkovsky, I guess, to be clear. And then
they're
probably go back to it.
Yeah, exactly. They're probably going to go back to it. It's worth noting that Caden Gooley and Justin Barron should return. They already sent down Logan Mailloux to the AHL. So like, those are genuine NHL defensemen that they didn't have. So, I'm expecting both of them to play in Washington. Maybe that helps. But just before we get to Washington, fully, Washington absolutely murdered the Rangers yesterday. Like, the scoreboard was close, but like that game was so tilted. Like Washington really took it out on the Rangers. Montreal's been the worst defensive team in the league so far. They've been a complete mess. So it doesn't profile well for Montreal here, but yeah, do keep an eye on Slavkovsky. It's just kind of expensive. Cole Caulfield just super unsustainable right now. Like he's shooting less and scoring more than he has in his past, which usually is not a good sign when your DK price is increasing to your results, but your process is not as good. Not to say he can't do it, of course, but like you have Alex Ovechkin in the same game for 1,400 less. Like just play Ovi if you want a goal scorer from this game. So let's actually I want to say I saw Lane Hudson start it. No, actually, it was Lane Hudson starting the power play with the second unit. So we did not see the flippening of the power plays yet. All right. Anything for Washington you want to talk about?
Chikrin got hurt. He only played 2 minutes. I don't think we got anything super concrete there yet.
Out.
But is he officially out in the game? I don't even think I saw that, but to me, it didn't feel like he was going to play, but it wasn't like they're expecting him to be out long term. It's kind of how I took it. But let's just work out the assumption he isn't going to play. Carlson and Rasmus Sandin took the power plays. Of course, Carlson on the top unit, Rasmus Sandin on the second. Faravari saw a ton of run. The minutes are kind of going to be wonky here, but I guess it's just 3,200. Rasmus Sandin is at least an option. The power plays were also kind of a jumbled mess. They had a ton of them, but the leader for ice time for any forward was Connor McMichael. I just think he is clearly a condition of if you're playing Dubois and Tom Wilson or Dubois or Tom Wilson at 4K. I mean, the 10 shot on goal in a goal game is not likely ever going to happen again. I don't know. He hadn't hit a shot bonus until this point where he did it twice. I think it's in his range of outcomes at shot bonuses. I mean, it's always kind of been there. I mean, a point a game or better, which he is now. I thought we both thought the world of this guy, and to completely get there was interesting. It's such a good matchup. I definitely don't think you could ignore it. Kind of where I'm looking right now is just to go that route with Toronto. It feels a little bit chalky. Like people are also going to see that and maybe go to it. Ovechkin is, it just kind of feels like is exactly when you kind of look away is when he breaks, conceivably breaks the slate. I don't think he was all that owned against the Rangers, but puts up a 27 spot. Washington isn't bad. I mean, we were certainly on the bandwagon, so I'm not jumping off of it. I don't know. I mean, this is top 6, but like, are you leaning one way or another here?
Yeah, the power play is a mess to the point where I don't think we can really draw much from it. Like they intentionally ran out a starting unit of Ovechkin, Strome, Mangiapane, Vrana. And then by their final power play, which by the way, this game was close throughout, so there's no real insights there. Their final power play of the game, they started with McMichael, Wilson, Dubois, Ovi, and Carlson. So like no Strome. I don't really want to buy too much into anything like that. I will just say like both of these lines I think are great stacks.
Yep.
I'm projecting that Chikrin should miss this game. It's not fully confirmed, but he's listed at day to day, and of course he didn't return after basically 2 shifts. So it doesn't seem like it's just rub some dirt on it and get back out there type of deal. I don't think they have another defenseman who can play the power play. Like they tried Trevor Van Riemsdyk there last year for time to time to get sort of Sandin and TVR like on a power play to get 2D out there. But that was before they had like actual, NHL players at forward. Like they went out and they got, PLD, they got Vrana, they got Mangiapane, Taylor Radish even. So like I think they're going to use Protas on the second power play if in sort of place of Chikrin, which obviously just means you cycle around a bit. It's not like Protas is going to be playing the point on the power play. But that makes the first line even more viable because Strome, Ovi, Protas is pretty cheap. If Protas goes from no power play time to some power play time, well, he'll correlate with Ovi because we know that Ovi is on the power play fully. And then, of course, McMichael, Dubois, Wilson has been one of the league's best lines to start the year. So, no problem playing that line stack either. For even a slightly for a discount off the top line, with their production, you would think, oh, that shouldn't be a discount, but it is. So Washington is, I think, a jam it in type spot. John Carlson's a bit expensive, but that's, definitely a pay up to be contrarian type deal. He's producing, he's doing exactly what he's been producing, which is kind of neat to see. 10.79 expected points per game, 10.79 actual points per game. Doesn't count bonuses, so it's not quite fair, but that's really fun. And just, I think, another feather in the cap of Team Jammerman for the Capitals here with just a bona fide alpha defenseman to play.
Well, let's get to a game that sucks. and that I'm not interested in and that I dislike greatly, and that is Boston at Carolina. Are only 5.5 total. Over is -125, so it's not a mile off. Carolina, pretty big home favorites at -170, and Boston has decided, fuck a dog. Let's just put Kastelik and John Beecher in our top 6.
Yeah, they went full scorched earth. It's a disaster in Boston. Getting shut out by the Flyers is going to incite a riot in any city, but for a team that was really struggling and only getting by on percentages, it came time to pay the bill, and they just don't have it. So there's not really anything here that I even want to suggest. David Pasternak's always in play, but against Carolina, if you want to play a 4% pasta, that's all you. Just note that again, his line mate is John Beecher, so have fun with that.
Yeah, it's. I really don't know if I've ever seen a situation where I felt more like I really don't think I've looked at a game where I've been so uninterested in one side that I am if in Boston, just because nothing feels good at all. Like McAvoy has been terrible. Marchand's, outside of maybe one game, I think, where he was even kind of good. They had 2 points.
Yeah,
nothing.
Lindholm
has fallen off the face of the earth. Where do you possibly go? And they're finding some secondary scoring and I guess rewarding a couple of those pieces, but
Marchand is at least he's at least doing the thing where you look at his stats and he has 4.5 expected goals and 1 actual goal on the year. He's got 4 primary assists and 1 secondary, so at least Marchand you can look at. He's getting a little unlucky. Of course, Pasternak's good enough to convert wherever, so he has 6 goals on 4.4 expected. But those 2 guys aren't really the problem. It's just they have nobody around them. So
what's going to happen here is Boston's going to win the game 2-1, and everyone's going to say what a genius they are for being the most boring team in the world. And on the other side, Carolina literally won, and we're not boring enough. We need to be more boring. And they're going out there and they are actively trying to be more boring.
They are committed to that bit. Eric Robinson remains on a line with Martin Necas. It's just horrific. I don't know. I would much rather play Washington than Carolina here.
Yeah. They held Vancouver to 2.4 expected goals, and it just didn't even feel like that was really even could have been the number. It couldn't have been. I don't know. I don't know. And they Goss's Bears minutes are diminishing now. And he's up to 5,100. There's no kind of cheap way of doing things. I just can't imagine clicking on Necas with Kotkaniemi and Eric Robinson as 5-on-5 line mates. You're kind of, and he scored last game. Whatever. But
he's been hot.
It's Svechnikov and Aho or nothing. And I think I'm just saying nothing here. They hate winning. And Charlie Coyle is, I don't even know.
He might have the best line mates of anyone on the team with Max Jones and Cole Koepke.
Cole Koepke, I think he was leading the team in points until very recently. It is just God. I don't think I've ever seen anything quite like it. I think Pastrnak took the lead back over now, but Pastrnak 8 and Koepke 7. So Pastrnak just took it back over, but it's really not even there's actually a thread you could draw with Carly Coyle being united with better line mates than he was with, because Jesus. Very bad game. People aren't going to click on it. So if you want to be unique and pray, go ahead and be unique and pray. It feels like a 2-1 trap.
What are we looking at with the total here? Is it a
5.5?
5.5. Okay.
Plus money on the under. Giga jam.
Okay. Yeah. Then I don't think ownership will follow. But of course, Svechnikov is in play. He's, I think, tops on the slate. Expected. It's Matthews, Forsberg, Yossi, Svechnikov, and Svechnikov remains underpriced at 6,200. So you can always play the top line. It's just not. It's not a priority of mine with Roslovic there rather than Seth Jarvis. So Edmonton at Nashville. What's the line here before I go through their changes?
Another 6 over under. I mean, it's the highest total is the Toronto game, and then everything's a 6, and there's a 5.5. So it's a 6 minus 120. So the higher of the sixes, with Montreal and Washington, it's minus 130 for Nashville, and yikes. I don't know. Edmonton feels icky.
So McDavid is out, missing this game and probably the Calgary game this weekend too, but we'll see. I want to say actually they called it a week to 2 weeks, so
Yeah, they
yeah,
did.
definitely out this weekend too. So to accommodate that, they're basically moving Ekholm to the top power play unit, and then moving RNH to center on the top line with Skinner and Hyman. Podkolzin, Draisaitl, Arvidsson remains the way it was, and then Janmark, Henry, Connor Brown, Derek Ryan, Noah Philp, and Corey Perry. Same thing. Their depth is not relevant. Jeff Skinner gets a minor promotion, but still isn't power play one. And what is power play one worth without McDavid? We'll see. We'll find out.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's a pretty good game. I would say it's not a gross game at all. We've got some, I guess, new flavors to work out. So as much as it's a little expensive to play like Draisaitl, Bouchard, and Hyman or Ekholm or whatever you want to do, just get a power play stack in. It at least could be a situation where they don't need to be as super productive as they were last season for their power play to bear a lot of good fantasy results, and maybe those results get spread out a little bit more without McDavid, just soaking up the puck so much. So I don't know. You could maybe twist me into an argument that Draisaitl is in play at 8K. Stacking him with Bouchard and or Ekholm seems fine because those two guys dominate play whenever they're on the ice, and I do feel like that without McDavid, that pair will play with Draisaitl a lot more than before.
Let's take a peek. Edmonton last game, 60% or more time on ice. Ekholm, Bouchard, Draisaitl by a substantial margin. And then Nugent Hopkins, Skinner, Arvidsson. So yeah, he's exactly what you'd expect. So yeah, I guess that makes sense. I guess that's probably the way to do it. I think that like,
this is
I mean,
Viz.
This is what I'm looking at right now. Yes,
yep, that's what I'm. But I know you're not showing it, so I'm just showing it. You can see that Draisaitl, obviously RNH got some time with them too because they were trailing and probably just did whatever. But Arvidsson, just got a decent amount of time with Ekholm, Bouchard.
So yeah, I think I just think it's almost a condition of playing one of those two defensemen, and to me, it's probably Bouchard. If I'm playing Draisaitl for sure, and then
you could sack him too. I mean,
you could take him.
There's no reason you like Ekholm's not going to just be uninvolved in the power play. Like as much as he sucks, like he's still pretty good for fantasy. He's gonna try stuff at least on the power play. I'm interested to see how that works. But yeah, I don't think that's a terrible stack either. Just say, yep, no. I'm playing high upside D-men who have a really high floor too, for 11.8K, just taking on the uncertainty of what a post McDavid Oilers team would look like. But
I just
speaking of taking advantage of that,
I think Nashville's really good. Is my problem. I think they're actually one of the best teams and like turning into. I think they will start to continue to. Well, they will continue to turn the corner, and to be one of the better teams in the league. I think that I am like if I'm not playing Matthews, I'm playing Forsberg, Yossi. There's probably a through line to play them all, just because you can play Nyes, you can play Pacioretty, you can kind of find pieces around it, but that's certainly where a lot of my interest lies. I know that the Stamkos people kind of got there for the first time all season. He, had 2 points and 6 shots on goal. Good for him. Marchessault has been kind of a guy I've been keeping an eye on. Just kind of feels like he's been a little bit undervalued by the fantasy community and has fallen in price. I just don't believe in Novak or Stamkos to lift him up like I think he needs. So to me, it's just this two-headed monster still, which is kind of what I was drafting all offseason, assuming. Roman Yossi has been incredibly unlucky not to break a slate yet. Just shots bonuses out the wazoo, some blocks bonuses in the mix, and just the points haven't come together yet. He hasn't scored a goal yet, but that 30 bomb is just I'm looking right down at it, and I'm definitely really interested in this game,
Last
which
game,
sadly we won't be getting the McDavid to be involved, because I know I was really excited for this one to see kind of McDavid versus It's felt like such a high powered octane game, but still interesting.
what are you, an ESPN executive? I want to say this game's on ESPN. I don't know.
Check.
I guess it doesn't show on the score the day before, but anyway, the main thing for Nashville is that last game we saw Novak go with Stamkos and Marchessault to close it. We didn't get a practice to confirm that or not, but I projected it that way. And obviously, Tommy Novak is more interesting offensively than Colton Sissons is from interest in Stamkos / Marchessault standpoint. So yeah, you can play Forsberg, you can play the top line. Gus Nyquist is coming down in price to reflect his newfound non-existent role on that top power play, because now he's power play 2 with all these new additions. So he's 3,700. It's not the end of the world to play him with Forsberg and O'Reilly. Like it's getting cheaper. 17.6K for the full line. Add in Yossi, it's expensive, but like still not crazy. But I do think it's very, very feasible to go Forsberg, Yossi, and Stamkos or something like that to just get all that power play production, like you're saying. Hasn't hit yet, but it should eventually. So if you're the type, just keep plugging away, and you might get there. But not much depth wise here either. Looking through the depth in Nashville. So anything else before we get to our final game?
No, let's just get it over with. We have the Bedards versus what could have been the Celebrinis, but unfortunately are just the 2 in a row Sharks. The oh boy, almost knocked my freaking thing over it. We'll start. Yeah, you have Chicago pulled up. Is it Bedard or bust? Or is there anything else you're interested in here?
I would say it's Bedard or bust. The lines that they came up with last game included Reichel on the 4th line. I don't really understand it because now he's getting all this good press of like, oh, I like the way he's playing. I like and then he's playing with Pat Maroon and Craig Smith, and it's like, well, do you mean that, coach? I don't know. I think we could see that change. I'll be interested to see if they do a pregame skate, or morning skate, to just see what's going on there, because we saw him on the power play 1 for a stretch. We saw him with Bedard for a game. So there could be further changes coming, even though they just beat, I think, Colorado in their last game.
Yep.
But again, can't really project it until we see it. So for now, it's just Bedard, maybe Seth Jones with it, but you don't have to play Kurashev. You don't have to play Tavo. Bedard is a singular force. He's going to do it all himself. So, it could be Taylor Hall and Bertuzzi getting power play assists. Like, yeah, Teravainen's the best stacking partner, but it's certainly not necessary. Just because of the way that Bedard could get there with 2 goals, 6 shots, and no one else really pays off their price tag.
Yeah, I agree with that take largely. Their last game, their power play 1 was, and as you don't have it actually, they had Reichel. Did they practice differently?
Did they?
It was. Yeah,
I'll be honest.
It was Bertuzzi, Jones, Reichel, Teravainen, and Bedard.
Let's see.
This I don't know if they changed it at all.
I don't think they would have changed it. I could be wrong. Reichel could be top power play for sure.
It was just Reichel for Hall, but I mean, we'll see. I mean, he was still on the 4th line. He scored at 5-on-5. And if you can score with Craig Smith and Fat Maroon as your line mates, I think you got to get a promotion. But that's just me. Little old me over here. What do I know? He's minimum salary, but until he's playing with actual NHL hockey players, you probably just have Zach Bolduc is just a better option, I think, at minimum salary. So yeah, Bedard or nothing here, not a ton else. On the other side,
just to wrap that up, yes, we didn't see a power play in practice today. We did see these lines though, so I just did not update the power plays. as we were going live to the show, because the last game
Just
was the last thing I was
very,
putting together.
very, very disappointing and also unacceptable. So the San Jose Sharks. Is it just Jake Wallman and Mikael Granlund are the best players in the league? Is that just where we're at?
Okay. I thought so, but then Jack Thompson dressed last night after in their. I mean, so let's just backtrack for a second. Tuesday night, the Sharks were down 4-1 with 5 minutes left in the game. I mean, it wasn't a bloodbath. You know, the Sharks played well in the second period. They were kind of unlucky to be down 4-1. But like they just couldn't get anything going. They outshot Utah 17-3 in the third, and they finally broke through with 5 minutes left. You know, it was a Wallman assist, Granlund maybe assist, or someone scored, and then they did it again with an empty net. And meanwhile, this is a team that had lost 8 straight games. They were on the precipice of being the first team in NHL history, I think, to lose 9 games in a row in both to open both seasons. They ended up losing 11 in a row to begin last season. So, like, you know, this team has literally nothing to play for. And, you know, the effort that they showed to sort of tie up the game and then draw the penalty in overtime and ultimately win the game immediately in overtime, I kind of thought like, well, okay, Jake Wallman was involved in all 3 of the tying goals. He was on the first power play. He's going to stay top power play. Well, no, Jack Thompson came back and he was top power play. Like, so, and then guess what? It doesn't matter. Jake Wallman still scores and gets 2 assists because I guess he's just the go.
I mean, him and Cody Ceci were I believe +3 against the Los Angeles Kings.
Yeah,
on a back-to-back.
And he's only 5K. Like that's sort of where it's like his price is not going up for the time on ice and the role he's getting. He's shooting a bunch. So like even that all that said, Jake Wallman is still very much in play, but it's certainly not as fun of a stack as it would have been otherwise because they're giving everything they can handle to Granlund and friends. I see no reason this game would be any different. And yeah, Chicago's better, but I don't know. This game does not feel like it should be a 5.5 total. So like there might just be some exploitative edge in
it's
that.
6. But you know,
the score says it's a 5.5, but whatever.
Well, the score is very wrong and also stupid. The Sharks +124 on the money line, in case you're wondering at home. I still think the Sharks team is better than Chicago. It's just Bedard might just be able to completely take over. And I honestly do like the game stack idea of just playing Bedard, Seth Jones, and then a 3 or 4 man San Jose. And I think that would look like obviously Eklund and, you know, Granlund and Toffoli. And like, you know, you could play Jack Thompson. If he's out, I think you just absolutely play Jake Wallman.
We've gotten confirmation that Liljegren is not available tomorrow.
Not available, right?
So Matt Benning's gone. I don't think there's a replacement for Jack Thompson on the roster right now. So I would expect him to play, and I would expect him to be power play 1. 3,300. He's been good. Like the only problem is Wallman's better, but like it's fine. 3,300 for that in Thompson.
It's fine. It's fine. I think that again, I genuinely believe that this is a good game stack. I can't believe I'm saying it, but I think it's just because it feels like there's going to be a lot of concentrated ownership on this slate. It's 7 games, but as we went through it, I think a lot of people are going to be on Toronto. A lot of people are going to be on Washington. I think enough people will get to the Canadians just because they're all back together. Pittsburgh will garner ownership with their pretty high implied team total. And then will people be clicking on Edmonton, Nashville, or is there any interest in that Blues team against a bad goalie? And it's like, are people going to get here? I kind of doubt it. Like maybe Bedard and like maybe enough people are still Granlund slappies. Like I can't believe I'm actually considering 6,500 Mikael Granlund. Like I truly believe I'm in a simulation, but
I mean, like look at what he's doing. Like it's not even
you just can't deny it. Like it's
not Chandler Stevenson. Like it's, you know, he's out here with 5.7 shot attempts per game. I mean, okay, look at, I mean, you can't really see my screen, but it's Jordan Kyrou and Michael Granlund look like the same player over their first 10 games of the year. Like you know, Granlund's 12.1 expected fantasy points, Kyrou's 12.2, 5.7 shot attempts per game for each. Granlund has 5 goals, 4 primary assists. Kyrou has 2 goals, 6 primary assists. The individual expected goals, like, I mean, everything is like looking pretty good for Granlund here. And with the team so reliant on him, it's probably going to stay that way. So, yeah, I got to say it's mighty interesting. And,
Yep.
maybe the field was onto something when they were playing Granlund at 30% owned 2 weeks ago at 4,200, when we were just like, well, you can't do that, because, yeah, it seems like he found something new and it's just going to be good for fantasy now.
I guess I would have to reckon so as well. I think it's largely Eklund driven, to be entirely honest. So like, I'm not
Ooh.
like, if you're saying like who are you leaving off of that mix, it's not William Eklund. Like, I think he is a bit of the reason behind it, more than anything else. I think he's a really good player. So okay, with all that being said, top stacks, guarantee goals. Let's go home, boys.
Top stacks. Yeah, let's just keep riding the Conor McMichael train. So let's go Washington 2 against Montreal. McMichael, Pierre-Luc Dubois, Tom Wilson. They will check in at 13.9K. You don't need to worry about the power plays being strange because they've been so productive at 5-on-5. And in almost every circumstance, 2 of those guys will be on the top power play with Ovi, which is really all you can ask for. And yeah, let's see Washington score another 8 goals here against Montreal.
Matthews, Marner, Nyes.
Nice.
You'll never believe it.
All right. I'm gonna go Pittsburgh 1, Malkin, Crosby, Raquel. I think Raquel will be super popular. I'm not sure people will double spend on Malkin and Crosby. So just I will try to prioritize that if if I can make it work.
Okay. I'll go with, I'm trying to remember what the exact line was for St. Louis, because it's definitely not right here. It was Broberg with Kyrou was with who?
I got you.
Yeah, pull it up really quick. Yeah, Broberg, Kyrou, Holloway, I think will be the take. I mean, or Saad, or both, whatever. Just
Yep. One thing to watch out for with Broberg, Prunovich is dressing, so just see if they run a power play. I don't think Broberg will lose the power play again, but it's possible that he does to Prunovich. So just one thing there.
Anything's possible.
Yep.
If you don't believe in yourself. Goals.
Guaranteed goals. I'm going to lead things off with Frank Vetrano. 5K Frank Vetrano. We're back, baby. We've loved Frank Vetrano for years on this podcast. This offseason was really tough as we came to grips with the existence of Cutter Gauthier. And he was being drafted at like pick 80. But it's not the offseason anymore. We're seeing real hockey play out. Cronin is a veteran-loving donkey. And guess who has grown up from a golden child into a veteran donkey? That is Frank Vetrano. So 5K, Vetrano, he's smashing. He's playing with McTavish, and Pittsburgh, I think, will be ripe for a very fun game environment.
Give me Connor Bedard. Seems easy. Don't need to overthink this one at all. He's 7,800, so I'll be punting off the other one, but there's punts. They make him that way.
Okay. I have 6K left for my second goal. I am going to go with Jonathan Marchessault. Just a bet on this Nashville Edmonton game. He's been pretty good. He's not quite as unlucky as Stamkos, but he's a little unlucky. And yeah, I like Tommy Novak as a playmaker. So let's see if we can get that to work here against the McDavid-less Oilers squad.
I may have gone too cheap.
Bang bang. Frank the Tank.
Probably gonna have to go with the guy in Seattle. You hate to see it. Yeah, might just be Tolvin in season for me out here. I have 3,200. I assume there'd be someone good, but that's running out.
How does Alexander Wenberg sound?
Worse. Yeah, he actually sounds worse somehow. He doesn't shoot. Like
Yeah,
Tolvanen shoots to score. It's just will he get enough minutes to score? High total. Don't really hate the idea.
Protoss, 3,200.
It's probably between the two. I might just go with what I like more tomorrow. I'll go with Tolvanen for now.
Okay, well, Mr. Indecisive DJ, he's gonna waffle all day long, and then they're both gonna score because that's just how he rolls. So, congrats in advance.
Yeah, we'll see. Well, we'll see how this slate turns out because the Tampa 3-man is 3-manning in Tampa. Could use a little bit more on the other side, and I can't believe how owned Ivan was.
I mean, he projected to be top line, top power play. So even though the top line didn't materialize, people aren't checking. So he wound up being top power play, and of course he's going to smash when that happens. So
Ivan squared. Okay, I played him, so it is what it is. I'm not mad, I guess.
Congratulations.
Don't put it in the news.
I played Alex Lyon, so my night's over anyway. Doesn't matter.
Hate to see it. All right, let's get out of here. Happy Halloween, everybody. Enjoy trick-or-treating or whatever. I'm guessing if you're listening to this, you're not actually trick-or-treating yourself, but if you're taking out the sprouts, enjoy it. I don't know. Anything else?
Friday is DJ's birthday, so be sure to subscribe to his Dub Club as a birthday present, and I'm sure he will give you some sick picks in return for you signing up there.
I will have bets every day. And subscribe on YouTube. If you're not subscribed, we're like just a few away from 400, and I can't remember when we get anything of importance, but it might be 400, maybe 500. I think it's 500.
It's 500. But you can't get the 500 without having 400 first. So let's just keep growing that number. Getting people indoctrinated into the world of daily fantasy NHL.
Oh, God. Turning to now 30. The big 3-0. The scariest. Yes. And that's why I'm just going to wear this and pretend I'm a kid still for a little longer.
Perfect. By the way, there is a emoji in the MSP Discord of DJ wearing his SpongeBob costume.
Yeah, I wore it for my 21st birthday, and I don't think I ever wore it again. And then I went home and washed it. It was at my parents' house, and wore it to my aunts and uncles' Halloween. And there's some little kids there. I thought it was really funny, and I don't know. That's really all it's for. Now when I hand out candy tomorrow, I'm sure I'll hopefully get some smiles, and I will try not to think about
the stoner. All sorts of good ideas throughout the show. Guess he's making burner accounts for the subscriptions. Thank you, bud. That'll do it.
Booby at 9,000.
Yes. Okay. Make sure you get that onto the Twitter machine, and maybe you'll be super famous as a betting personality.
First.
Yeah. All right. Let's get out of here. Be sure to follow us at Morningscape Pod on Twitter. I'm at Fake Moods. DJ is at DJ_Mitchell94. DM one of us if you want to get in on the Discord. And finally, make sure you subscribe to my Beehive. I've gotten to a rhythm of posting a slate write-up every Friday. This Friday has another good slate. We also have an overseas game Friday that I won't be writing up, but some afternoon hockey. Never a bad day for that. And yeah, I think that's it. I mentioned your Dub Club. Also, everything's in the description. Just make sure if you ever think, damn, I'd really love to support these guys, open up the description of this podcast and just do everything in there. Like it's really, that's how you're going to help us more so than, anything else. So, and if you've already done all that, thank you. And we'll see you again on Tuesday. We got a big slate on Tuesday, by the way, the Barn Bash 555. So looking forward to that one over on DraftKings. DJ, anything else you want to say before we go?
Go Sabres.
All right. Go Sabres. That'll do it from us. Thank you all for listening. From Doug, who I believe is currently in a tornado warning in Oklahoma. So hopefully his house is still standing. From DJ and from myself, have a good slate, everybody, and we will see ya.